The world was stunned when US forces seized Nicolás Maduro. This happened right in the heart of Caracas. Maduro, Venezuela's embattled leader, was taken by surprise. He was seized from the very fortress designed to protect him, the Presidential Honor Guard. It wasn't just a military operation. It was a symbol of the unraveling of a regime that once seemed unshakable. But what led to this moment? How did a leader once seen as untouchable fall into the hands of foreign powers? This isn't just about Venezuela's crisis. It's about a larger geopolitical struggle, a struggle that challenges the power dynamics of the Americas. And now, in the aftermath, the Venezuelan government faces more than just a battle for survival. It's a fight for relevance in an increasingly hostile world. How will the interim president, Delcy Rodríguez, navigate the treacherous waters ahead? Stay with me as we dive deeper into the forces shaping Venezuela's future. Venezuela, once a prosperous nation rich in oil, is now a land divided. Its political landscape has become a battlefield of ideologies. At the center of this turmoil stands Nicolás Maduro. For years, he's clung to power with the support of the military and loyalists. But now, that support is crumbling. The events of recent days have put the world on edge. Maduro, who once seemed invincible, was captured in a surprise operation. The world watched as US forces moved in, seizing not just a leader, but a symbol of defiance against the West. And in his place, Venezuela has a new interim president, Delcy Rodríguez, a close ally of the jailed Maduro. She now holds the reins of power. But can she maintain control in the face of mounting international pressure? With the US watching closely, the fate of Venezuela hangs in the balance. To understand the magnitude of what's happening in Venezuela, we must look back. The country's political and economic crisis didn't emerge overnight. It's the result of years of mismanagement, corruption, and a decline in oil prices. Venezuela once stood as the wealthiest nation in Latin America. Its vast oil reserves were the lifeblood of the economy. But as oil prices plummeted, so did the country's fortunes. Under Hugo Chavez, the country shifted to a socialist model. Chavez's policies promised to uplift the poor and reduce inequality, but they also fostered corruption and created an overdependence on oil. When Chavez passed away, Maduro took over, inheriting a nation on the brink of collapse. The situation worsened under his rule. Hyperinflation, food shortages, and mass migration became the new normal. The crisis in Venezuela is not just a moment in time. It's the product of decades of decisions. And now, with Maduro gone, the nation faces an uncertain future. The turning point came when US forces moved in and seized Maduro. It was a shocking event, a blow to a government that seemed untouchable. For years, Maduro had been protected by the military and his loyalists, but this operation exposed the vulnerabilities of his regime. It wasn't just a physical attack, it was a psychological one. The world saw a leader brought down not by his own people, but by foreign forces. And with Maduro's capture, a wave of uncertainty crashed over Venezuela. What does this mean for the future of the country? Could it be the beginning of the end for a regime that has held power for years? For many, it feels like a moment of reckoning. The shockwaves are still being felt in Caracas and across the globe. This wasn't just about Maduro, it was a message to the rest of the world. The US is watching, and for Venezuela, that could be just the beginning of a much larger storm. To fully understand what led to Maduro's capture, we need to look beneath the surface. This wasn't just about military might, it was about a system in decay. Venezuela's government is a tightly controlled network of power, one built on loyalty, fear, and influence. The military has long been a cornerstone of Maduro's regime, but in recent years, cracks have started to appear. The once impenetrable unity between the government and the military has weakened. Infighting among the elites, corruption, and mismanagement have created fault lines. Maduro's inner circle, which once appeared unshakable, is now fractured. This failure to protect Maduro during the raid reveals a deeper flaw in the system. It's not just about the presidential guard. It's about the breakdown of the loyalty that once held everything together. The question now is, what happens next? Who can step in to fill the vacuum of power? And what will happen to the people caught in the middle of this unraveling system? Just days after the seizure of Maduro, a new wave of tension rolled over Venezuela. US President Donald Trump made it clear that this wasn't over. He warned that further strikes could be imminent if Venezuela didn't comply with US demands. This was no longer just a diplomatic dispute, it had escalated to a military standoff. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodríguez, found herself at the center of this storm. Her government, fragile and newly formed, was facing the pressure of international scrutiny. The threat of another wave of US strikes loomed large. But Rodríguez didn't back down. Her tone, shifting between defiance and diplomacy, reflected the precarious balancing act she faced. Would she bow to US demands? Or would she hold her ground, risking even more violent confrontation? For now, the world watches closely. The next few days could determine whether Venezuela will rise from its ashes or spiral further into chaos. In all this turmoil, it's the people of Venezuela who are bearing the brunt. The crisis has already torn their lives apart. High inflation, food shortages, and mass migration. But with Maduro gone and Rodríguez at the helm, the future seems even more uncertain. Venezuelans, who have suffered for years, now face a government under the scrutiny of foreign powers. The interim president's every move will be watched. And the question remains, can she protect her people from further suffering? For many, this feels like the latest chapter in a long story of betrayal. The loss of Maduro has shaken their faith in the government, but can they trust the new leadership? The hope for change is palpable, but so is the fear of more chaos. The people want peace, stability, and the return of dignity. But the road ahead is unclear. Will Rodríguez offer them hope, or will Venezuela continue its spiral into deeper instability? The stakes couldn't be higher for the Venezuelan people. The impact of Venezuela's crisis isn't just felt within its borders, it reverberates around the world. In this age of interconnectedness, what happens in one country can send shockwaves globally. The seizure of Maduro and the rise of a new interim government have caught the attention of world powers. The United States has already made its position clear, threatening further action if Venezuela doesn't comply with its demands. But it's not just Washington that's watching. China, Russia, and Cuba have long been key allies of Venezuela, each with their own interests in the region. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and its fate is tied to global economic and geopolitical interests. With the US now controlling much of Venezuela's oil, a new chapter in the geopolitical struggle for energy resources is unfolding. This isn't just about Venezuela anymore, it's about a global struggle for influence and resources. The international community now faces a critical question. How will it respond to a country on the brink of collapse? The future of Venezuela is bound to affect global trade, security, and energy markets. And the world is watching, waiting for the next move. The future of Venezuela is uncertain, but it's possible to imagine three distinct paths ahead. The best case scenario. In this scenario, Delcy Rodríguez manages to stabilize the country. She navigates the international pressures while addressing the internal crises. With a new government in place, Venezuela begins to rebuild, slowly but surely. The economy recovers, oil revenues flow back into the country, and the people begin to heal. Venezuela regains some semblance of normalcy. Its people rebuild their trust in the government, and the international community supports the country's recovery efforts. The middle ground. Rodríguez succeeds in some areas but struggles in others. Venezuela sees some economic recovery but remains politically divided. Human rights violations continue, and the country remains under the heavy influence of external powers, especially the US. In this scenario, the people of Venezuela continue to suffer, but the country avoids total collapse. The worst-case scenario. In the darkest outcome, Venezuela spirals into further chaos. Rodríguez fails to gain control, and internal strife leads to widespread unrest. The country could face even more U.S. interventions, escalating violence, and political instability. Venezuela's citizens already struggling fall deeper into poverty and fear. This scenario would have disastrous consequences for the region and the world. The future of Venezuela, whether bright, moderate, or grim, remains in flux. But each path will require careful decisions, both inside and outside the country. What happens next will shape not just Venezuela's future, but the future of the Americas. Venezuela stands at a crossroads. The removal of Maduro and the rise of Delcy Rodríguez is a turning point in the country's history. But this moment isn't just about Venezuela. It's about a world in flux. The future of Venezuela is not just a matter for its people. It will affect the entire geopolitical landscape. Every decision made in Caracas will echo across borders, impacting global security, economy, and politics. As the world watches, the question is, what role will you play? We cannot remain passive observers in this unfolding drama. The choices made now will define the future for Venezuela and for all of us. The stakes are high. Venezuela's fate is not written in stone. It's in the hands of its people, its leaders, and the global community. As we close this chapter, remember, the world has its eyes on Venezuela. What happens next could change everything. Are you ready for the next chapter?